Today, we're diving into a quiet revolution that's happening on the factory floor. And it's not about bigger, stronger robots, it's about smarter eyes. We're going to look at how simple, everyday cameras, when you power them up with AI, are giving manufacturers a brand new superpower: the ability to finally see all the tiny, invisible problems that secretly cost them millions. Just think about that for a second. What if every single machine, every workstation, every little corner of your production line could actually tell you its story? Because the truth is, every factory is just packed with hidden secrets, these tiny little delays and hiccups that are quietly killing productivity. We've just never had an easy way to hear what they're saying. And that leads us right into the core of the issue, what we call the factory's blind spot. You see, for decades, even the absolute best manufacturers have been running their operations with this fundamental, unseen challenge. Yeah, even the most high-tech, well-run manufacturing lines have these problems that are pretty much invisible to the human eye. We're talking about these super brief issues that might last just a second or two, but when you add them all up, day after day, well, the impact is just enormous. So, what are we talking about? Well, think about things like micro-stoppages, a machine just pausing for 2 seconds, or maybe an operator taking a slightly longer, less efficient path to grab a part. I mean, on its own, it feels like nothing, right? But when that stuff happens hundreds of times a day, it becomes a massive drain. And trying to find the real reason why, it just gets lost in all the noise of a busy factory. Now, in the world of manufacturing, they measure success with a key metric called overall equipment effectiveness, or you'll hear it called OEE. The easiest way to think about it is like a report card for your production line. It basically combines how often your machine is actually running, how fast it's going, and how many good parts it's making. And all those invisible problems we just talked about, they are the silent killers of a good OEE score. So, how in the world do you fix problems that you can't even see? Well, that brings us to the really cool part. You give the factory a new set of digital eyes. This is where the whole AI vision solution really comes into play. The old way of trying to figure this stuff out was, well, it was clunky. You're looking at people with stopwatches, doing manual time studies, installing super expensive sensors on everything, and you still had massive gaps in your data. The new approach is a total game changer. It uses simple cameras that a lot of factories already have. You can get it up and running in a matter of days, and it gives you this continuous 24/7 analysis, all backed by video proof. It just closes those data gaps for good. And here's the most important part. This isn't about some fancy, expensive new hardware. It's literally about taking a tool that's already everywhere, a standard camera, and giving it a super brain. The artificial intelligence is what lets that camera not just see what's happening, but to actually understand it. Okay, so we've given the camera a brain, but how does this all actually work? How do you go from just, pixels on a screen to real hard dollar savings? Let's break down how this technology turns raw video into insights you can actually use. It really boils down to a simple 4-step process. First, the cameras just capture everything that happens. Then, step 2, the AI gets to work analyzing all that footage, identifying every object, every action, every pattern. Third, and this is the magic, it automatically detects and flags all the important stuff, the bottlenecks, the downtimes, the little inefficiencies. And finally, it delivers that crystal clear, video-backed data to the teams on the floor so they can make smart, targeted improvements. Now, whenever you talk about cameras, a huge question always comes up. What about privacy? And look, that's handled right from the very start. The AI's job is to analyze the process, not the person. Things like automatic facial blurring are standard built-in features. The whole point is to convert what's happening into anonymous statistics about things like cycle times and machine states, not to track individual people. The focus is always on improving the operation. All right, so the system is gathering all of this amazing privacy-safe data. But data is just data, right? How do you actually turn it into action? Well, this is where the rubber really meets the road. This is where the technology starts getting incredibly powerful. And just look at the sheer breadth of what's possible here. You can configure the AI to track all of these specific events. Some people call them control points. For example, it can tell if a machine is running or stopped just by looking at its status lights. It can count scrapped parts in a bin. It can perfectly time an operator's cycle. It can even monitor things like how long it takes to load a truck. It's incredibly versatile. And the results? They happen really, really fast. Most customers see something like a 10 to 15% jump in their overall equipment effectiveness, that OEE report card we talked about earlier, and they often see it within the first few weeks of just turning the system on. A 15% gain sounds great, but it translates into real money, a lot of it. Here's a quote from Caleb Mandelay over at Cessa Manufacturing. He said that by using this tech to find and fix those tiny little issues, they saved around $200,000 per machine. That is just a massive, massive return on investment. But beyond the money, what this all comes down to is just undeniable clarity. There's no more finger pointing or guesswork. When a machine goes down, the team instantly gets a timestamped video clip showing exactly what happened right before, during, and after. The whole who, what, why debate just ends, and the real problem solving can begin immediately. So we've seen the kind of impact this can have on a single line or even a single machine. But now let's zoom out for a second. What does this shift really mean for the future of manufacturing itself? Because this isn't just an improvement, it's a true digital revolution. This is a complete game changer, especially for older factories or for assembly lines that are highly manual. For years, these places have been a black box. It was just way too expensive or impractical to install modern sensors. But now, with something as simple as a camera, they can finally be brought into the digital age. So why is this taking off right now? It really boils down to 3 huge benefits. First, it's actually affordable, way cheaper than loading up a factory with traditional sensors. Second, it is incredibly fast. You're getting insights in days, not waiting months and months for a complex integration project. And finally, it provides that absolute clarity, the video-backed ground truth that teams need to get better every single day. And that leaves us with one last fascinating thought to chew on. This technology, it isn't about replacing human experts on the line. It's about augmenting them, giving them perfect data. So when you get rid of all the guesswork and you give your people total visibility into their process, their jobs are going to evolve. The question isn't if this changes things, but how we all adapt to a world of perfect information. It's a future that's already being assembled right now.